Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's session in the Get Unstuck series. I was a bit hesitant at the moment because I was getting a message that I wasn't live and then suddenly said I was live. So anyway, it's lovely to be here with you at the end of August. I hope you've had a great summer. If you haven't joined me before, I'm Sarah Archer. I'm a career and leadership coach, and I work with female leaders to create the kind of career success that's right for them without selling out or burning out. And I do that through either helping them find their next leadership role, or when they're in it, being effective, having impact, having influence. And obviously some of that's what we're going to talk about today. And the Get Unstuck series is designed, it's very short, 15-minute slots every Wednesday, just to give you a little bit of space in your week to think about your career or think about something in terms of career development. So something that will help you move the dial on your career a little bit. Because I know what it's like when you're in a big job, when you're in a leadership role, you just don't get time to think about you, your career development, your career direction, because the problems, the issues, the challenges you're dealing with on a daily basis, I know, take up a lot of headspace. So I just wanted to kind of create this little window of time to give you that space to think about your career. And they're always practical. There's always things you can take away and implement straight away. So before we dive into today's session, if you are here watching me live, please do say hello. It's always nice to know people are here. And if you've got questions or comments, do pop them into the chat and I will answer them as we're going along. If you're watching on replay, hello, you're very welcome too. Just tag me in the comments if you've got a question, I'll come back and answer it. But before we dive into today's topic, I just wanted to announce something, because I've got a live event happening on September the 10th in the evening. It's a virtual event, and it's 4 steps to help you land your dream leadership career and get paid what you're worth. So if you're thinking about a move, because we know, generally leadership roles, it can take up to 3 to 6 months to find that next leadership role. If you're thinking about a move, then please do join me on September the 10th, because I'm going to share with you 4 steps that can just help you accelerate and be more effective in your job search. So I'm just going to pop the link to that in the chat now. So hopefully that will appear shortly. And then if you do want to come along, do register for that. And I'm thinking that might only have gone onto the YouTube channel. So if it's not on the LinkedIn, I will post it in the comments later on, that link. But please do join me on September the 10th. So let's dive into today's topic, which is all about getting your voice heard in the leadership space. And obviously I work a lot with female leaders, and this comes up time and again. So if you've experienced it recently where maybe you just can't cut through the noise, there's just too much going on, you just don't seem to be heard, you're not having the impact or the influence that you want to have, or maybe your ideas, your suggestions are being badged by somebody else as theirs, they're kind of taking away your ideas and using them as their own, or maybe you're experiencing that sensation of being talked over by a colleague, just don't seem to get the opportunity to get your ideas, your initiatives heard by the people who need to hear them. And it's very frustrating. It's very demotivating. You might feel angry. You might feel disengaged. You might feel that it's affecting your confidence as a leader. And it happens all too often. In fact, I was talking to some clients recently about this. So I've had one who she is in an advisory role to the chief executive. And what she found was happening is that the chief executive was taking her ideas to the board, not as her ideas, but as his ideas, which was very frustrating for her. I also had another client where she's a director. She was in a small meeting with the chief exec and other directors and a new board member, and she was the only female in the room, and she was asked to take the notes, which just felt very disempowering for her. And another one who's in a very senior role, having to kind of matrix manage, was finding that people would only take notice and take action when the chief exec prioritized that particular piece of work, not when she was asking those people to take on that piece of work. Again, very frustrating for her. So I know that it comes up time and time again. And when I was thinking about this particular session today, I kind of realized that I needed to split it into 2 sessions, because there's kind of the tactical things you can do. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Some of the tactical things you can experiment with to get your voice heard more. And then there's also the kind of inner work. There's the mindset work we have to do that can sometimes get in the way of us being effective in the workplace and having that influence. So today I'm going to do the more tactical stuff, and then next week, if you can join me, I'm going to do the mindset work. And all of my lives are available on replay. So if you can't make next week's, but you want to catch up with it, they're all in my LinkedIn profile, and they're also on my YouTube channel, Career Tree Coaching. So let's think about some of these tactical methods that you can use. And a few of them I'm borrowing from a guy called Robert Giardini, who wrote a book about persuasion. And he wrote it from a sort of sales and marketing point of view, but you can take some of the ideas and use them in the world of work. And I have often used these with my clients. So I have an influence and impact program for female leaders, and often we'll look at experimenting with some of these and tailoring them to their particular situation. So the first one is thinking about building trust and credibility, because obviously if you're trusted, people will more likely to take action when you ask them to. They're more likely to follow you and to see you as somebody who has credibility in the organization. But sometimes you have to remind people of your credibility and your authority. And you can do that by just thinking about, you shouldn't have to do this, but you might think it's going to be useful to just maybe say something like, well, from my 10 years experience as a senior HR leader, I know for us to get the outcome that we want, these are the actions we're going to need to take, and I need you to buy into them. Or it might be, from the project I ran on that was very successful, what I learned from that is that we need to take ABC approach in order to be as successful. So it's just helping people connect with where you're coming from and why you're suggesting that, for them to feel, okay, yeah, this feels comfortable. You're kind of giving me that reassurance, that trust in what you can do. And the trust also is about, building that brand of somebody who does what they say they're going to do, who gives credit where it's due, who, is seen as somebody who is a doer, an implementer, who's credible in the organization. So that's kind of the first thing you can experiment with. And I did use this with a client who, she was 6 to 8 months into a new role. She was working as a senior project manager, and obviously she was having to matrix manage. So she needed people to take action, and she was finding she was not getting headway with that kind of approach. So she then started to let people know about projects she'd run previously, and just reminding them of her significant experience as a project manager. And it really shifted the dial on people then listening and taking action for her. The second tactical thing you can think about doing is kind of mapping your allies and thinking about the relationships you have with them. So who in the organization are the decision makers? Who are maybe your allies that you feel naturally aligned to, that you feel could be helpful in terms of getting through the initiatives that you want to get through? And creating reciprocal relationships with them. So reciprocity is it's a kind of key factor in relationships. We all know if somebody does something for us, we want to return the favor. So you can think about building up a kind of bank of social credit with your allies. So you've got to feel comfortable with these. So some of these might feel, I feel like I might be manipulating. But if it's coming from a genuine place, it's not going to be that. You're just thinking strategically about building a bank of social credit so that when you need something in terms of support or alignment or door opening, whatever it might be, those people are then going to be willing to help you in that way. So genuinely thinking about how you can help them. So maybe that's lending them a team member, maybe it's sending them some information that's useful, maybe it's opening a door for them, maybe it's supporting them on something, but you're just constantly building up this bank of social credit with people who are going to be helpful to you. And then the third thing, which is kind of linked to that in terms of building relationships, it's this area of likability. So we're more likely to be influenced by people that we like, because it's just kind of the way it is. If we like someone, we're probably more likely to do something that they suggest. Now, this is where it becomes a bit tricky, because we're more likely to like people who are similar to us. Just kind of social relationships, which becomes challenging in the workplace, because women and people of colour then can experience this double bind, because research by some psychologists, Cuddy, Fisk and Gluck, showed that when we meet somebody, we're immediately assessing, are they competent and do we like them? And this kind of goes way back in terms of evolutionary terms, because it was a safety thing. If we liked and trust that person and we think they're competent, then we're more likely to be safe. But obviously we've brought that evolutionary trait into the world of work. And what tends to happen is, if you're in a high status social group, so if your organization, typically in the leadership team, is white male, then it's an automatic that you're liked and seen as competent. You don't have to prove it. But if you're in a lower social group, so you're not a white male in the leadership team, then you have to prove that you're both competent and likable. Now, I hate that this has to be the way it is, but it means that we have this double bind where we have to show as women that we're competent at what we do, but we also have to be warm and likable, whereas our male colleague may not have to do that. So what that means is that we have to be consciously dialing up the warmth. We have to be more deliberate about it. So we have to obviously come at it again from a kind of genuine place, but we have to think about cooperation, maybe compliments to build that relationship, identifying similarities with that person, and really just consciously, when we're presenting things, presenting in a kind of warm way. Okay, now you can not like this, I don't like it, but it's part of that tactical, strategic approach to having the impact that you want to have. So you can just kind of think about that as a tactical approach with your allies. Obviously you don't have to be doing this to everybody, but it's going to be more effective with the allies, the decision makers in the organization. And there are always going to be exceptions to this. You've got to be comfortable doing this approach. Then our kind of fourth point is thinking about commitment and consistency, because as individuals, we want to be consistent and commit to the identity that we've created for ourselves. Okay, so we don't like to act inconsistently to who we think we are. So you can think about this in terms of the context of when you might be, say, wanting to get your boss buy-in. So you might present it as, Mike, I know that you're a balanced decision maker, so I know that you're going to give my proposal a thorough review. Okay, so you have given Mike, this imaginary boss, a identity of being a balanced decision maker, and Mike won't want to be inconsistent to that on the whole. So he's therefore more likely to then respond in that way of, okay, yes, I'm a balanced decision maker. I'm going to give a thorough review to this particular proposal. Okay, sorry, I've just had a message. I think I'm not live on LinkedIn. I'm only live on YouTube channel. Okay, so I'm going to have to do this again on LinkedIn. Okay. Right. I'm just going to finish what I'm saying for... Actually, no, on YouTube, I'm going to cancel this. Okay, let's just try again.